May I come in?
Come in.
May I come in? Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good
ma'am.
evening. Have your seat, Tanushree.
Yes.
You've taken COVID vaccines,
Yes, sir.
both the doses.
Yes, sir.
And what about third dose?
No, sir.
Not yet. Okay, so you can remove your mask. We have also taken vaccines.
Yes.
Tell us something about you.
Sir, my name is Tanushree Meena. I was born in Naharsinghpura in Savai Madhopur district of Rajasthan. Thereafter, I did my schooling from Maharaja Savai Mansingh Vidyalaya in Jaipur and did my graduation in History Honours from Miranda House College, University of Delhi. After which, I did my post-graduation in Modern Indian History per se from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And since then, I've been preparing for civil services.
Okay, so have you studied about the freedom fighters of 1857?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that it was the first war of independence?
So, personally, I would say that considering what had been happening before, 1857 can very well be considered as the first step towards an initiative from Indian people in asserting their independence from the foreign rule per se, and which was a collaborative attempt from a lot of rulers or the princely states of those times.
Okay. And who participated from Rajasthan area?
So Rajasthan princely states mostly supported the British government. Instead, it is known that the ruler of Bikaner went all the way to Amritsar to curb the revolt of 1857.
And what about the ruler of Savai Madhopur?
So the ruler of Savai Madhopur, it was from Jaipur. The ruler of Jaipur is the ruler of Savai Madhopur. So they did not participate and they also supported the British government.
Why? This princely states supported the British government. They did not aspire for independence?
So I think the Rajasthan princely states per se, the Rajputana, which were 22 in number, were because after the subsidiary alliance treaty, they were enjoying their rulership and they did not face any troubles and they were comfortable with living under the British suzerainty.
So, did you find rulers of any region of the country who supported the revolutionaries and revolted themselves?
So, for example, Rani Lakshmi Bai and the King of Travancore, who also fought against the British, and other than them, Begum Hazrat Mahal from Lucknow. Some of the names I can recall right now.
Okay. What about Tatya Tope?
So Tatya Tope was not a ruler. He was a leader in the Maratha forces who also contributed with Rani Lakshmi Bai and Nana Sahib in fighting against the British.
So whether most of the Marathas fought against the Britishers or in favor of Britishers?
So I would say not all the Maratha empires which had become into a confederacy of 5 after the disintegration participated against the British.
This subaltern school, I think you have studied in modern history.
Sir.
What is their perception about the 1857 revolt?
So they say that the 1857 revolt, as has been studied by the nationalists or the Marxists, highlights the contribution of the rulers or the higher gentry of the population. They do not talk about the real contributors as per the subaltern school, which is the common people, the peasants, who were participating in uniforms, as they argue. That it was the military forces which revolted against the British were peasants in uniform.
So what is the conclusion? If the peasantry and the common people participated in popular revolt,
yes, sir.
Should we declare it to be a real war of independence?
So I think that there needs to be a general consensus whether we can consider it as the first war of independence, as has been argued by V.D. Savarkar in his book 1857, The War of Independence. So if there is a larger consensus, because in history there are different schools who have different thoughts or views, and we can have a cordial space where all those views can coexist. Okay,
Tanushree, you studied in modern history that Britishers exploited Indian economy.
Yes, sir.
Thoroughly, and due to that, two new deprived class of people emerged. One independent floating labor class, and another is Jamindar class.
Yes, sir.
And this Jamindar class is still somewhere functional in Indian politics at a state level or district level, which is a kind of legacy of the colonial rule of the country. Now, if we want to modernize our society,
Yes, sir.
we must mainstream these Jamindar families. Mainstream means they have to brought up in the middle of the society rather than dominating the politics. Until they dominate state politics, real democracy cannot be achieved.
So I would say that dominance does not mean that they are doing any harm to the democracy. If they are positively contributing to the Indian democracy, I would very well say that they can coexist in the democratic sphere and they can continue participation in the political landscape of the country.
Okay, but government has prepared labor codes 1, 2, 3, 4. But let's say people are questioning about the right of workers to organize themselves, trade union. This is happening from history reading. You know that who are questioning this.
Yes, sir.
Who would be questioning the rights of workers? Maybe the Jamindar class people or the capitalist class people.
So I would say that in any dynamics, be it the workers or the zamindars, be it the laborers or the industrial capitalists, there would always be a confrontation of sorts when one tries to assert their rights, which the other considers as hampering their interests. They would always be in conflict. So what can be done is to create a mutual coming space, a middle space where both of them can collaborate, coexist, and discuss their issues with each other, rather than being in arms against each other or being in conflict with each other.
Okay, Tanushree. Thank you.
Tanushree,
Yes, sir.
you come from Rajasthan.
Yes, sir.
Your optional is history, right?
Yes, sir.
And you did your BA honors in history also.
Yes, sir.
And you did your master degree from JNU. And you got junior research fellowship certificate also. So why you want to join in civil services? Why not being a good teacher or great teacher, I would say?
So I wouldn't say that I cannot be a good teacher or a great teacher. But while I was pursuing the research field, for 2 years, it was to make sure that whether I want to continue it further or not. And during that time, I had also side by side started my civil services preparation. And I found that studying history with a clear objective or a clear perspective in mind to do research did not interest me that much. I liked history as a subject because it intrigued me. But when I was pursuing it as a professional goal, it did not satisfy me much professionally and personally. So I thought that maybe civil services is a better opportunity which would give me a diverse set of job opportunities in comparison to academic line in history. Also, there is a social respect which is associated with civil services which would attach value to what I say in the society. And I thought that right now, being an independent woman and coming from a place like Rajasthan and Jaipur and Savai Madhopur per se, having a social respect or a voice which has weight is important in order to inspire other girls around me in the area.
Very good. You come from JNU, right?
Yes, sir.
I just want to understand. Students of JNU are usually debating regarding freedom. They are sounding much for the liberty. From whom they want to liberate, or what kind of freedom they wanted to?
So I think that the whole idea of JNU as an interactive space is this, that the students are free to voice their opinions, be it against the university system, against the government, or against the larger society per se. They are able to voice their grievances in a very active manner without being fearful of the society that they are going to be generalized or categorized into particular categories. But over the years, what has happened is maybe for political reasons or some other reasons, these issues have been extrapolated to an extent that certain students from the university who have for their vested interests misused the freedom or the political space provided in the university and created a negative rhetoric.
Good. You practice yoga, right?
Yes, sir.
What kind of yoga you practice?
So Vinyasa yoga.
What is it?
So Vinyasa yoga is a free flow yoga in which your breath acts as an anchor to the whole yoga practice. It is like completing a whole life cycle in the yoga practice, where you start from the child's pose, which is the Balasana, and end the practice with Shavasana, the dead pose.
Okay. And what is Rechak, Kumbhak and Purak while practicing yoga?
I'm not aware.
I'm talking about the Ashtanga yoga.
Yeah, Ashtangika yoga.
Have you heard about the conception of Ashtanga yoga?
So I know broadly that the idea is about performing specific poses in the yoga practice.
Okay. You have in general ideas about the breathe control or pranayam. How can we control our breath?
So it is by channelizing your breath and your thoughts well and constantly monitoring your breath to make it at a constant pace. It should not be too shallow, too deep, or too fast.
Okay. You got prizes in stage play like Ajat Satru and Manto Ki Auratein. You have written in your def.
Yes, sir.
Right? Can you enumerate 3 positive or negative points of Ajat Satru?
So I would say the positive points of Ajatashatru as a ruler is his clear-headed goals towards what kind of an empire he wanted to build, his active pursuit of his policies regardless of the threats around him, and his idea of developing Patliputra and Rajgir as the larger empire in those times. The negative attributes, I would say his disregard for the familial relations when he dethroned his own father by killing him. Also his resort to violence as the first step in achieving his goals. Be it conquering Kaushal and acquiring his wife Bajira from the ruler Prasenjit and other. So these are the some things.
Okay, nice. Why we found there is a two-party system in Rajasthan?
Yes, sir.
We have seen Bharatiya Janata Party or Congress Party. Why not other regional parties are emerging in Rajasthan?
So, as per my understanding, I would say that the two parties have been in prominent play in Rajasthan since very long, and they have a very traditional social base which is based on caste and personal relations. As a result of which, the regional parties have not been able to emerge. Some parties who have made an attempt have been usurped by these big parties itself.
Why communal violence emerging nowadays in Rajasthan?
So, as per my understanding, I would say that communal violence is a result of antagonized emotions in the society, which result due to a lack of tolerance per se, when people over the years have become a little unaccepting, a little less tolerant towards those around them. And as a result, they have become vocal about their intolerance. And they think that there has been a space which has provided them to be vocal about this negative emotions that they have, which was earlier not there.
So how can we restore the peace and harmony in the society?
So I think that there needs to be a collaborative effort which has to come from the institution, the society, which at urban levels we could include municipalities or the representatives, and at rural levels we could include the Gram Panchayat level representatives. At the same time, there needs to be a community mediation that over the years India has flourished as a diverse and culturally inclusive society. So this is our history. This is what has been the foundational basis of India as a country, and this is what we should we should continue to achieve in the future as well.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Can you tell me a little bit about biodiversity of Rajasthan?
Ma'am, the geographical features in Rajasthan are divided into 5. The northwestern desert region, the Aravalli mountain ranges, the eastern plain regions, and the plateau regions in the southeastern Rajasthan.
Okay, and what about flora and fauna?
Ma'am, I have limited knowledge on that.
You don't have any knowledge about any species in general?
Ma'am, for example, the state tree is Khejri, and the state flower is Rohida. State animal is Chinkara, and Great Indian Bustard is also prevalent in Rajasthan.
Great Indian Bustard. What is its conservation status as of now? IUCN status?
And the IUCN status of Godawan, which is critically endangered.
I'm asking about Great Indian Bustard.
Yeah, Godawan is Great Indian Bustard.
Okay, it's called Godawan. Okay. We saw a pandemic in the past couple of years. What do you think, which sections or groups have been more negatively affected by the whole process?
Ma'am, considering that I was in Rajasthan and at my home during the pandemic, in my immediate surrounding, I could see that the most affected were the informal sector, be it the domestic help, the small stalls which we see around the city, or the migrant workers.
Migrant workers. Rajasthan has what kind of migration? In migration, out migration? How do you have you observed the pattern of migration in Rajasthan?
Yes, ma'am. I would say that there is a migration from rural areas to urban areas. And
Within state?
Yeah, within state. At the same time, those who are living in urban areas, they are moving to metropolitan cities.
Okay.
For example, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, etc.
Okay. Can you tell me some of the women rights movement of independent India?
Women's rights movement in after independence. Okay, so I think the movement for dowry prohibition per se, and ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm not able to recall.
No movement you can recall? Or okay, what rights have been given to women since independence?
I would say right to vote is also Dowry Prohibition Act.
Okay.
Preconception, prenatal diagnostic techniques which work against female infanticide and female feticide. Work towards right to education, especially for women, which I would say Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is a movement for promoting women's education.
Okay. Anything about sexual harassment?
Yeah, Vishakha guidelines first and Sexual Harassment Act.
Okay. So are you happy with the rights given to women in India? Are they complete, or you still see scope of improvement and any lacuna areas?
I would definitely say that I'm happy with the progress India has made in terms of women's rights. But we cannot be oblivious to the fact that nothing is complete. There is still a long way in order to create an equal space for women in India.
So what are those spaces, or what are the areas which are still left?
Considering the social dynamics, I would say that child marriage is still prevalent in some places, especially in Rajasthan. Other than that, a large section of women are still engaged in informal workforce. The entrance of women to the formal workforce at an equal pay and at higher positions is less in comparison to men in India.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the things.
Do social evils, as we coined the term, are they still prevalent in Rajasthan, do you think?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of social evils?
Child marriage is one of the prevalent social evils which has been present in Rajasthan since generations. Other than that, an active discouragement to women to pursue their education, to restrict them to domestic spheres, and at the same time, a favorable attitude towards the boys in the society, encouraging them to pursue their interests or whatever they want to do in their lives.
So, okay, you have to devise a awareness campaign. So, what all mediums you would use and what message you would send across if you are asked to make an awareness campaign specific for Rajasthan?
Ma'am, first of all, I would include the role model women from the areas. In particular areas, there are women who have been able to break the ceiling or break the restrictions and have come out and asserted their rights.
Can you name some of them?
For example, Amrita Devi, who is prominently known to have sacrificed her life and her daughter's life. Her daughters also sacrificed their lives in protection of Khejri tree. Other than that, Avni Lakhera is a Paralympic Olympian, and also Bhavri Devi, who worked towards Vishakha guidelines of sexual harassment.
So what mediums you would use?
Okay, so I would incorporate them. I would ask them to be my role models in the areas of their work.
No, I'm asking what means of communication would you use for your awareness campaign?
Means of communication, I would say drama, since I have a dramatics background and I know that drama as a medium of social exchange is very prominent.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe street plays, including the local population. I would also create a safe space and would actively engage with the people, especially the women around me, to ensure them that I'm there to secure their rights. I would always be available for them and I would help them in my best capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Tanushree.
Yes, sir.
Tanushree, connecting the dots, from where you were in the conversation with the ma'am. If you do take, the reference of the Constituent Assembly,
yes, sir.
Can you tell me any three women, those who have contributed, immensely in terms of, their contribution in the formation of the Constitution?
Sure. Rajkumari Amrit Kaur.
Mm-hmm.
Other than her, I'm not able to recall other names right now. Sorry.
Sarojini Naidu was the part of this assembly?
Yes, sir. She also became the Chief Minister of United Provinces.
Any
after
specific,
independence.
you can say, favor or the disfavor are, the arguments that these, the women, they have, given within those framework of the, constitution framing? Are you aware of?
No, sir. I'm not aware.
Not an issue. Sir John Seeley, once he said that history is past politics and politics is the present history.
Yes, sir.
If you keep, this statement into your mind, can we say safely that whatever happening in international arena, the conflict which is going on between Russia and Ukraine, is just like a repetitions of the Cold War politics where the superpowers, tend to fight, in third, countries? The third world countries are, in other, the part of globe?
So I would say that, of course, we have failed to understand completely the mistakes from history, which is why the current Russia-Ukraine crisis has taken place. At the same time, I wouldn't say that it is a complete repetition. Of course, the post-Cold War era, in which there was an active pursuit of insecurity towards Russia, it was being cornered over the years, which has antagonized the Russian President Vladimir Putin and his whole idea of becoming a...
Whom you feel responsible, the crisis, like whether this is USA's part, the part of the policies that it has played?
So I wouldn't say that it is USA particularly, but the world in general, or the countries across the world. If we have an institution like United Nations, and we have emerging countries across the world, the Western countries, European countries, India, China, all of them have contributed towards creating this sense of insecurity, maybe, in which Russia, which has been constantly arguing about that NATO should not be expanded, but it was being expanded and its warnings were not being heeded to.
In history, we have seen like a lot of the genocides, like, which have been, made and, occurred various places. Is there any recent genocide, you can identify that took place?
So, as per the recent news reports which have been coming, the Bucha killings in Ukraine.
Okay, are those reports of this genocide are like testified? I mean, so whether they have been proved or just like part of allegation?
So these are a part of allegation. They have not been proved, which is why the Indian government representative in the United Nations has argued for an independent probe into the killings before holding anybody responsible for it.
Indian Ocean Association for Regional Organization.
Yes, sir.
This is, one of, the grouping, where the India should, focus when it comes of like, Indian Ocean region. How India can, make this particular platform to be, more useful for fulfilling its, goal?
So I would say that India can be a leader in the Indian Ocean region, considering our vast coastline and our cordial relations with the other Indian Ocean region countries, be it the Maldives, the South African countries, Sri Lanka per se, and Australia. So I would say that India can take a leadership position, include all these countries, and have a general set of ideas how they are going to take about the Indian Ocean region in the future. What is their perspective of the role that Indian Ocean region is going to play in the coming world politics or the geopolitics?
Tanushree, I can read from the DAF that is you had been DU student?
Yes, sir.
Recently we have seen a controversy related with the history syllabus.
Yes, sir.
What was those controversies involved into this?
So, as per my limited reading on the subject, I would say that the whole controversies regarding history syllabus is that very selective portions of syllabus have been taught to the students in universities, which are creating a selective idea of Indian history. For example, it has often been claimed that history of the southern empires, the Cholas, the Cheras, the Pandyas, the Vijayanagar Empire, the Rajputana have not been taught enough in comparison to Mughal history or the British history.
Tanu, recently we have seen the unifications of these municipal corporations in Delhi. What are those politics and the economics of unifications of those corporations?
So, in terms of politics, I would say that it would create a unified head in the municipality in comparison to the three divisions which earlier existed, which has been claimed that the division of the municipality into three sections created a lot of confusion, and the whole idea with which it was being created has been defeated.
What is the economics?
So I've no understanding about the economic
Okay.
aspects.
Tanushri,
Yes, ma'am.
have you heard about denotified tribes?
Yes, ma'am.
Or what is it?
Ma'am, denotified tribes are the ones who are considered to be more backward and more alienated in comparison to the. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay. You come from Rajasthan, and there has been this illegal mining in Aravali range, because of which a major portion of Aravalis has been lost. Despite Supreme Court, banning mining long back, it still goes on. What are the reasons that we are not able to stop this mining, and what are its environmental hazards for the people living in and around that area?
Okay. For the reasons, I would say that a lack of opportunities in Rajasthan in terms of livelihood, because of which people go back to the illegal mining. Also, it is a very prospective economic aspect, because if Rajasthan is the sole producer of lead and zinc, wollastonite and selenite in India, and as a result, Aravali is also a reservoir of many minerals, which is considered as an economic center. These are some
two
of
are
the.
economic reasons. Any other reason?
Ma'am, I'm not aware of them.
Okay, anyway, my last question to you. Have you heard about Treaty of High Seas?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Tanushri.
Tanu, what do you understand by a circular economy?
So, a circular economy is something where the whole idea of what you're using is being recycled again. So, for example, the plastic circular economy, in which the amount of plastic you use is being recycled.
Okay. So, will it be a cost-effective affair?
So, I'm not well aware.
Okay. So, government is nowadays promoting circular economy.
Yes, sir.
So, what are the processes, or what are the at least schemes and programs which have been launched by the government to promote circular economy?
So, I'm not able to recall. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
you don't have any idea. See, our import bill of oil is, of course, a big burden on Indian economy, and so it's very natural for us to find sources of cheap oil. But do you think that just to reduce the cost of import, we should compromise on basic principles of foreign relations?
So, I would say that we are not compromising on the basic principles of foreign relations as of now, because if we consider the oil imports, India is one of the largest oil importing countries, and it is of foremost importance to secure as much cheapest oil prices that we can. At the same time, I would say that the country is claiming for a moral higher ground in comparison to India. As per news reports, those have been the ones who have more imports of oil and gases from Russia per se or other countries.
Okay, why has this crisis erupted in Sri Lanka recently?
So it was because some of the reasons for the crisis are imposition of the shift to organic farming and ban on pesticides and higher inflation and mismanagement of the economy with taking
Our government is also discouraging use of urea and other chemical fertilizers and pesticide. So, we have also similar implications?
So I would say that what Indian government is doing is in a phase-wise manner. But what happened in Sri Lanka was an immediate imposition of a law without making the complete country ready for it. The farmers were not ready for it. They did not know how to go about it.
Okay. And what's the issue in Myanmar nowadays? There is US and European Union have imposed some new sanctions against them.
Sir, in Myanmar, after the military coup, the military generals have usurped the power. They have been using violence towards the critics of the coup and the military per se. And this has been categorized by the United Nations as a human rights violation, with the earlier democratic representatives who were elected by mandate of the people being arrested and being not allowed to speak to the larger world.
Such incidents have erupted not only in Myanmar and Ukraine, in many countries of the world in last couple of months. So how do you look at these global events? There appears to be a new pattern of failure of UN-based order, peace and order. Can we conclude that this is crumbling altogether?
So I wouldn't say that it is crumbling. Of course, there are setbacks in the whole idea of United Nations working towards global peace and keeping all the countries together in the world. But at the same time, with countries like India, China, United States, European countries like Britain, France, being active members of United Nations and been actively pursuing their foreign policy ideas and their whole philosophy of world relations in the United Nations, it is still a very relevant body. It still has the moral authority, geopolitical or geoeconomic authority in the larger world dynamics.
Nice talking to you, Tanushree. Your interview
Thank you,
is
sir.
over. You will go now.
Thank you, sir.
Have your seat. How many attempts you have taken already, civil service examination?
So this was my 5th attempt.
5th. And what has happened in the previous attempts?
First mains, first interview, first prelims.
Okay, first prelims. In the first 4 attempts, you couldn't clear prelims.
Yeah, that was like my main setback.
Hurdle.
Yeah.
Oh. So once you have crossed the hurdle, your means was not a hurdle. Fine. So how do you rate your performance today here?
So I would say there were particular areas where I was not comfortable and it was very visible.
I hope you have identified those areas.
Yes, sir.
And your date of interview is actually one is to 2nd of May. Almost 25 days are left. So good enough time to prepare the weak areas.
Yes, sir.
See, overall, we are discussing your personality. We find that you are suitable for administrative position on many counts. You are having a strong academic background, and that is reflected in the discussion with all the board members, that you have sincerely studied the subject and developed a thinking habit. Analytical faculty is good. You have a good flow of communication and which is clear and logical also. Overall, we also found that you did not try to mislead any member with fanciful facts. So that suggests that your intellectual integrity is intact. So we are very hopeful that you'll be scoring very good marks in interview. To better your chances, of course, the areas which you have identified, you can strengthen further.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but other things are fine. In gesture and the exterior part of the personality, when you had to talk to the member on the right hand side, you turn your entire body right.
Yeah.
And when you had to talk to a member on the left hand side, you turn the entire body left. Try to position your body in such a way in the chair that rather than turning the body, you have just to turn the neck. Okay, that will be better. I hope that this is not a formal dress, so you'll be that day wearing a formal dress.
I'm wearing a sari.
That's good. So, of course, all the other things, shoes, etc. Fine. Watch your videos sometimes to make your points more emphatic. You use sometimes, not always, you use some dramatic facial expressions.
Okay.
Less dramatic would be better. The facial expression part. Find those occasions when it happened. Other things are perfectly in order. We have nothing to suggest for improvement. That means all the things are perfectly in place. If you have any questions, you can ask.
So I think one of my main concern is that in the economics part, I'm not very well versed, and it is not something which...
See, because you have studied modern history from JNU, you are expected to reflect some understanding of economics. Because modern history means neo-colonial forces you have studied, the entire mechanics you have studied. So pay some attention, read something.
Yes, sir.
You should be able to explain. See, the benefit of studying history that you are able to explain the present with historical sense. So that advantage you should not forego.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.